Hi, my name is Emily Iannelli, and I'm doing this tribute to a friend of mine who I went to high school with, and I knew since the 6th grade. This tribute is long overdue. So, this is a tribute to a friend that I grew up with when I moved with my family from Brooklyn to Long Island, and we, through the years from the 6th grade and through our senior year in high school, we were tight. We were great friends. He was a wonderful person, and he had dreams and goals like all of us when we were in high school, in junior high school. And he was very talented in the dramatic arts. He was very interested in English literature and in performing on the stage. In fact, he was in the drama club, and he was very attentive to drama and acting in plays, and he was wanting to put all of his effort into studying drama in college. When we graduated from junior high school, I went to John F. Kennedy High School, and he went to Calhoun High School. The reason he went to Calhoun was because he was focusing on dramatic arts, and Calhoun had a good reputation for drama as a focus or concentration, and Calhoun provided him all of the necessary resources to concentrate in English drama, stage performance, plays. So he was very much attentive to that. Whereas I went to John F. Kennedy High School in Belmore, and I focused on the math and sciences because I wanted to be an engineer. I was aiming towards mechanical engineering, so I took my math from algebra at Grand Avenue in the 9th grade, geometry in the 10th grade, trigonometry in the 11th grade, and pre-calculus in the 12th grade. And I took chemistry, I took physics, I took mechanical drawing, and I was gearing my education with a Regents diploma for a technical field. I was not sure why I didn't take a computer class, because I know they offered those classes with I think at that time it was BASIC that they were using for their computer language. And I didn't really take well to computers for some reason, even though if you're good at math, it doesn't necessarily translate to being good at coding, because coding is an art, because what you need to do is you need to lay out a set of instructions for the computer to solve problems, and you needed to put together that code, and you had to have a logical approach to that. And although I was really good in math and science, and it would obviously seem that you would also be good at logic, and logic was never my forte, because it was too abstract for me to solve those kinds of problems. Then I was on the cross country and track team for the 11th and 12th grade in high school. And Scott, I only saw Scott since he was going to a different high school. I only saw him like on the weekends when we would go bowling and go to the mall in the winter, and we would play baseball in the spring and summer on the weekends. And even though Scott went to a different high school, we would see him on the baseball field. And we got together on the weekends, basically. And we also went to movies in the winter as well, and also spring and summer, depending what was playing. Even though we had little money, I would believe that we all got the money that we used either through part-time work or our parents. So I was kind of both. My parents would give me spending money for the week, and I also worked part-time where I would get money. And Scott, I was very privileged to know. I also I took a course in proper maintenance of your car at the Belmore Memorial Library because I was a new driver and I wanted to make sure I could do basic maintenance on the car to save some money. And Scott was in that class too. It was coincidental. It wasn't like we arranged to go together, but he was there as well as I. So that also gave us an opportunity to extend our friendship, since he was, like I said, at Calhoun High School and I was at John F. Kennedy High School in Belmore. So in the 11th grade, we were taking the PSATs and the SATs to see how that would affect our admission to colleges that we applied to. Now, I did fairly okay on both the PSAT and the SAT. I was not a genius. I did not score extremely high. I did better on the math portion than the verbal portion. And I believe Scott did much better than I did. We, like I said, would get together on the weekends in winter and also in spring and summer. And we had a great time playing baseball. I played with so many of my former classmates who I'm still in contact with through Facebook. And he loved playing, I loved playing, and we would, joke around. I mean, we were serious about competition, but we were friends, He was on our team, and we won some games, we lost some games, but we played for the fun of it, Even though we were competitive, we also were playing for fun as well. And it gave us an opportunity to hang out with our buddies. So in the senior year of high school, I was really in the 11th and 12th grade. During my weekly regimen, I also ran for Coach Al Bukowski, doing practicing. We would go to Mill Pond and run around the pond, or we would train on the track at the high school, or we would take a run towards Jones Beach on the Wantor Parkway. We would run right from the high school on Merrick Road to the Wantor Parkway. I think we went to Cedar Creek Park and went on the bike path. Well, we ran on the grass, and we would go to the second bridge. So we ran a good amount of miles, at least 6 miles round trip. We also went to running camp in the 11th grade, which was a great experience for me. But I was still in touch with Scott. I wished I was in touch with him more than I was during the 11th and 12th grade, because we only really saw each other when we played baseball and hung out together with our friends. So when I was deciding on colleges in the 12th grade, I was pretty much knowing where I was going to start my college education, and I was concerned about my parents paying for it, so I decided that I would go to Nassau Community College for my first 2 years, and I focused on studying engineering in their 2-year program. The concentration or major was in engineering science, which was pretty much the foundation for your first 2 years of engineering studies. I took calculus, I took physics, I took chemistry, I took English literature, I took calculus 1, calculus 2, multivariable calculus, linear programming, and also I took mechanical drawing. I took physics. I took heat and sound. I took statics and mechanics. I took electricity, electronic engineering, and I took I took language. I took French, and I took some electives. I don't know why I didn't take thermodynamics. I should have, because I know they offered it, because thermodynamics is one of the major courses for mechanical engineering. And then once I graduated from Nassau, which was a 2-year degree, I went to Virginia Tech to focus on mechanical engineering. Now, prior to going to Nassau Community College, when we were preparing for the high school graduation, JFK Belmore, I graduated in June of 1979, and the 12th grade was a wake-up call for me, because I was running track and cross country, but I also needed to have a part-time job so I could make some money. And I was working at a restaurant on Merrick Road in Merrick, a Jewish deli. I was a busboy and a dishwasher. That was my very first, well, second job, because I did penny saver route when I was younger. Um, and I, I made money, and I had spending money. So when I was running on the cross country team, I would go running on my own as well, and I would run on Merrick Road towards the Merrick Park they had. And then I would, and then back then they had Consumers Distributing, they had Violetta's Pizza. So I would run in the shopping center. That was also the year when they had the Cabbage Patch craze, because I also worked at Consumers Distributing, which is no longer in existence. And I worked as a stock clerk. And when I was running on one occasion, I was passing Long John Silver's, which was a fish and chips kind of fast food restaurant, and I saw Scott. He was taking his he was taking the trash out, and I saw him, so I said, "Hey, Scott, how you doing, my friend?" And we talked for like 10 or so minutes. Not real long, but we spoke a little bit, and we embraced each other because I hadn't really seen him in a while, because I was focusing on my track and cross country even on the weekends, and that was kind of like I wasn't as committed to playing the baseball games with our friends because I was, training for the track and cross country. And the senior year in high school, like I said, we were preparing for our college studies. And Scott, the last time I spoke to Scott, aside from meeting him when I was running on Merrick Road in Merrick, I was talking with him about college, and he said he was going up to Albany to check out their theater arts program, and that was a suitable program for him because he loved being on stage and performing. So I said, "Oh, that's great, and I hope that everything works out and you get accepted into the program." I was already accepted at Nassau Community College for the engineering program. So I was working at Wolfie's, and I got a phone call from a friend, Marty Schindelheim, and he called me, and it seemed urgent, so the employer told me I needed to take a call. So when I answered the phone, it was Marty Schindelheim, and I said, "What's up, Marty?" And he said, "Did you hear what happened to Scott?" And I said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I just saw Scott like a couple of weeks ago." And he said, "Well, I got bad news for you." And my heart sank when I heard him say this. And before he got the words out, my fear of what happened to Scott actually happened to Scott. Marty said that Scott died in a car accident while going up to Albany. His mother survived, but Scott died at the scene on a highway within an hour of Albany, where he was going to do a tour of the campus. and learn about their theater arts program. I was devastated when I heard that our friend Scott had passed away. His name is Scott Levanthal, and I was heartbroken because he was one of my best friends, and I never had to confront death of one of my peers. So Marty happened to get all of the information for his wake, his funeral, and he got the information where it was to be held and what time, and it was during a weekday, so we got excused from school to attend his funeral. And in the evenings, we went to his mother's house to sit for Shiva, because Scott Levanthal was Jewish, and that's how they pay their last respects to someone who has passed away. And all of his high school friends, including me and Marty, attended his funeral, and there wasn't a dry eye in the temple, and I was crushed, and I just was heartbroken, having to confront the fact that our high school buddy, who we used to play baseball with, who we would go bowling with, who we would go to the food court at the mall with and to movies, he was gone. And I couldn't reconcile that in my mind. And I kept saying, what, why, how, when. It was so surreal that I had to confront this. And I saw the casket up in the temple, and that was the realization that my friend Scott Levanthal had passed away. He was only 17 years old. And it really hurt me deeply, and it has entered my mind from all the years that I was growing up, when I was studying for the CPA exam, when I was going to college. I went to Nassau for 2 years. I went to Virginia Tech for roughly a year and a half. And then I transferred over to Hofstra, where I completed my education, studying to be an accountant, a CPA. And as I went into the working world, I worked in many jobs in accounting departments. I lost my mom in 1990. But all throughout those years after high school, there would be every now and then my looking at my yearbook to reminisce. My junior high school yearbook, I had both my junior high school yearbook and my high school yearbook. And I would glance over the pictures, and there in the 9th grade was a picture of Scott. And I would look at his picture, and I remember reading his signature and his little few lines wishing me well in my life. And I wrote, I don't remember what I wrote, but it probably was to wish him all the best as we both would go to different high schools. And I said, you're going to be a very good actor, and I look forward to seeing you on TV or on Broadway or in the movies. And I would always think from time to time, when things weren't so good for me and I got depressed, I would always think back to my friend Scott Levanthal. And I would say, my God, here I am. I'm still around. I'm having a life, I'm doing things, I'm working, saving money, and my friend Scott, poor Scott, was already gone, and he didn't have a full life. He lived only till 17 years old, and then he passed. And I would think to myself, what a sad tragedy that was. And it was like I was almost like, why? Why did this have to happen to Scott? He was such a great person, it's not fair that he was taken away. And all throughout my life, I would always think back to my friend Scott to realize how lucky I was. And I, to this very day, I think of my friend Scott. In fact, I'm doing this tribute video for him because he had left a lasting impression on me. And I, from time to time, try to envision my friend Scott, and I can still picture his face. And it's not hard because I knew Scott. I used to hang out with Scott. So I know his image, and I still had that in my mind. And I would pray for my friend. I felt very sorry for his mom because his mom was all alone now. She had divorced with her husband. Scott essentially grew up with his mom. It was like she was a single parent, and Scott was her only child. So my heart went out to Scott's mom, and I stayed in touch with his mom for a couple of years. But then I moved on because I was living my life and things were happening. But from time to time, I would think about my friend Scott and his mom, and I would pray for him. And because I was sad, I was totally caught off guard when I heard this news. And all I can say to my friend Scott Levanthal is that I really miss you. You were a great friend to me. We had some fun times playing baseball, going to the movies, going bowling, going to the mall. We had great times, and even in classes that we attended together. And I am still saddened by his premature death. So I just want to let you know that Scott is now gone 40 years now, because it's 2019, and we're scheduled to celebrate our 40-year high school reunion. And we've lost some friends. They passed on. Some from car accidents like Scott. Some from illnesses, cancer, all of the things that people succumb to as they grow older. And sadly, I lost several friends to suicide. In 2 cases in particular, one of my friends who lived next door to his friend and my friend as well, Joe, his name was Joe Spataro, and when his mom passed away, he was heartbroken and devastated. And I kind of lost touch with Joe because it was after we graduated high school, but he was a good friend of mine. And I learned from another friend that Joe had committed suicide in the